Hello, and let me check sure. Yeah, this thing's on. Hello, and welcome to my channel, The Coherence Path. My name is Stefan Senna, and I have established this channel just to kind of share ideas, thoughts, and experiences that I have had in hopes that maybe, you'll think of some of your own experiences or ideas and in some way relate or uh, maybe give those things a new look, either to let them go or um, to be inspired to do something. I'm up here on Mount Hood outside of Portland, Oregon, and as you can see, up on this mountain, you can see for miles. Well, at least if it's a clear day. I'm surrounded by fog up here. It's the mountain that's actually up behind me, hidden by the fog. I've climbed up above Timberline Lodge and just to get away from the sound of I think it's their air conditioning or their heater unit that's on the roof, excuse me. But anyway, this is a nice little composition behind me. If I wasn't in it, it might make a nice little painting. But, I didn't know what I was going to make this video about when I came up here. But on the way up here, I had an idea. Now, it used to be when I was younger, I'm 61 now, I used to, as most of us do, if we have an ego, like to control things. And so if I was driving my car, well, I just never used cruise control because I would just want to get where I was going, and I wanted to feel like I was in control of the vehicle. So if I needed to pass somebody, I would pass somebody. If I wanted to slow down, I'd slow down. Whatever it was, I just never used cruise control. And then some time ago, I don't know how long it's been, maybe only a few months, I began using cruise control. And as soon as I started using it, I had this feeling of relief, just as I did today driving up here. It's about an hour drive, hour and 20-minute drive to come up here from Portland. And, as soon as I put the cruise control on, I can just relax and focus on driving, which is an easy thing. And if I drive at a slowly or slightly slower speed than everybody else, if everybody's cruising at 70 and I go 65, and I just stay in the slow lane, everybody either goes around me or, or whatever. But anyway, I just find that I don't really have to slow down or speed up much because it's just a good way to go. So then when I was coming up here to the mountain, you have to get off the main highway, and it's I think it's about an 8-mile road up here. It's pretty steep, and when it's clear, you can see for miles. That direction, the direction you can't see, usually you can see out there for I don't know, maybe 150 miles. I mean, it's a beautiful view. And when I was thinking about coming up here, I thought, oh, that'd be beautiful to have on my video. I guess that'll be on another video. So anyway, as I was driving up here in this 8-mile stretch of road that's mostly uphill, now if you hear some kids, I think I hear some hikers walking up here. But anyway, I thought, well, the road is a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit, but it has curves, so I decided to put it on cruise control this last 8 miles again, but only go about 30 miles an hour, and so that's what I did. And as I came up the hill, of course, I didn't even know there was going to be fog up here, so the first probably 5 miles, it was easy to drive because I just had it on cruise control, 30 miles an hour. The engine stayed at about 2,500 RPM, and it was an easy drive. And now you will hear kids, they're teenagers over here. I guess they decided to show up in the fog too. They're playing around. But anyway, so the last probably 3 miles, then it got dense fog like this. Oh, and here come their parents. Well, that's all right. They all got their walking sticks out and their skis or whatever the heck they got. But this is a pretty fun place to come up to. Even if it is foggy, there's always something to do. You can go for a nice hike up on the hill. When there's snow up here, my youngster and I and their friends have gone skiing up here. There's a mountain biking course up here. There's lots of good trails and stuff for your dogs. And, in general, it's just a fun place to come if you want to get out and get some exercise. It also can be a romantic getaway. Now, Timberline Lodge is not sponsoring this video, but if you're listening to this and you're sitting in your apartment in New York, or you're home in Wisconsin, or you're in France, or you're even in India or Africa, who knows where you are listening to this and when. Mount Hood National Forest is a beautiful place to see. The lodge is incredible. It was all handmade, over 100 years ago. And there's just lots of things to do. They have restaurants, a bar, there's rooms you can stay in, there's a pool, there's ski lifts, you can go skiing night and day. Anyway, right now there's not enough snow up here to go skiing, but as I went up the last 3 miles up this road, I hit the fog. And on the cruise control, when I was going straight, that 30 miles an hour I was going seemed fine. But when I turned a curve, the curves coming up here are pretty sharp, then that 30 miles an hour seemed like I was going 60 because those curves are really, really tight. And I was tempted many times to slow down to 20, but I didn't. I thought, well, let's just ride this out, and if I have to lean over to one car inside of the car as I go through the corner, that's all right. It wasn't slick out or anything, so I knew the car was going to hug the road, and I was only going 30. So anyway, but as I drove through those curves, I got to thinking about, cruise control is a good metaphor for life. We can go through life with our ego trying to control everything, or we can, let go. We can just put our life on cruise control. And that's the last thing most of us want to do. And even amongst people who are trying to manifest things for themselves and create lives for themselves using, hypnosis, subconscious programming, mantras, intentions, vision boards, and everything else. That's all fine if you want to journey through that process. And I've gone through all that stuff. But you do reach a point, and hopefully sooner than later, where you just let go, where your aspirations are not to collect things outside of you or to use things outside of you to create, but to just be coherent with who you are. Like as an example, right now, nature has decided to snow. It's kind of a sleet, wet snow. It's kind of a damp snow, and I'm definitely gonna nestle up next to the fireplace down at the lodge when I get down there to warm up and dry out. But for right now, I'm just going with the flow. It's on cruise control. It's it's kind of an enjoyable experience. It's not something I experience every day, so why not just enjoy it? It's making me a little cold, a little wet, and perhaps, if I stood out here long enough, I'd turn to a block of ice. I don't know, but I'm not gonna make the video that long, so you don't have any fear about that happening. But anyway, yeah, so there's lots of processes we can go through in life. If we go with the capitalist industrial viewpoint, which is fine, then we're going to go hunt down and attack and control and create and make happen anything we want to do, and we can do that. That's one method. um, or we can, use our thoughts and feelings and our senses to create what we want, and that's fine. And you will get to a certain point, but there's another reason, though, why we're here, other than those things, and that is to learn how to be a good person and how to be a loving person, not act good, not be a good actor at being loving, but actually be good and be loving. And the other aspect of that that comes into that is just being okay with everything the way it is. Because if you're not okay with the way the things are, then you're going to try to control things. And there's no way that you can be unconditional about anything if you're trying to control things. So let me sneak a peek behind me here, make sure a Bigfoot isn't sneaking up on me or something. You just never know. And anyway, or some mountain goat wants to chew the ankles of my pants. But no, I don't think there's any mountain goats up here. But anyway, um, let's just say that you have everything you possibly could dream that you have, right? So you've got it all, whatever that is. To some, it's going to be a homestead out on some, you know, barren land out in the middle of some midwestern state, or to others it could be a high rise in Chicago or New York. To others it could be, an island out in the middle of the South Pacific. I don't know what it is for you, and that's fine. It's none of my business. But my point is that just sit down and imagine that you had everything that you want, and really feel as if you've had it for quite a while, like maybe 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. And if you're creative like me, it really doesn't matter what you have, because you can always create something to do. If I had $1 billion right now, it wouldn't even really phase me a whole lot. It'd give me some other choices, but I'd be pretty much doing the same thing I'm doing. I'd be writing books, painting paintings, going on adventures, whether they're little or small, trying to share myself with others in some small way or larger, like this YouTube channel, to try to help other people along their own path. Because really, that's the only reason why we come here, is to learn how to be good and learn how to be loving. And we naturally, springing out of that, just want to radiate that out. That doesn't mean you have to have a YouTube channel or talk to anybody. You could just radiate that energy, being in your little 1-bedroom house in the middle of some barren land that you farm, or that you pay everything online because you're retired and you're living out there. Who knows? But you can radiate goodness and love doing whatever you want to do. But there is another element, and that is it's inherent in all creatures to want to lower their entropy. That's why we have evolution. And some of this language you'll recognize, because I am a supporter and studier of Thomas Campbell's work in the Monroe Institute. And all creatures on this planet have lowered their entropy over the millions of years to evolve to become better creatures, to adapt to their environment, to get along better, and to make life more balanced. If you took mankind off the planet, let's say, pretty much nature would just be in perfect balance. Creatures would eat creatures, and plants would grow and change and shift, and some plants eat. A lot of plants eat creatures, but and creatures eat plants. But they all evolve, and they're all growing in their own different, unique ways. Whether it's a bird that's uniquely evolved to feed off of one specific flower, or whatever it is. Everything loses entropy as it evolves, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to lose entropy, if we're just think we can go through life and let's say we want to live in a cave and meditate all day, that's fine. You go ahead and do that. But there's more available for your soul or your spirit or your consciousness, because you are part of all consciousness, than just sitting in a cave meditating all day. In fact, you might do that this life, but next life you come back and because you'll get out of this body and the perspective of this human experience, and you go, I didn't really challenge myself at all. Yeah, it was easy to sit there and meditate in that cave for 30 years, but I didn't really face like having children and raising kids or having a business and starting an industry or suffering illnesses or handicaps or there's a plethora of things that people go through, and you will choose to come back and experience those things because we're not here just to just sit on a cloud, do nothing. So I'm not saying that you have to do any of those things or that any of those things are wrong. You can have a mansion, you can be in a cave if you want. It doesn't matter to me. My point is that there comes a point where you stop wanting to control everything, hopefully, and you just put your life on cruise control. I can look back at my life and I can't remember every single month, like maybe 10 days or 20 days before rent was due or mortgage or whatever. But I have the knowledge of knowing that, yeah, I always had concerns month to month about paying bills and so forth and stressing about them and like, oh, I gotta get enough money for the next month's rent or whatever. And, but looking back, it was always paid. So it's there's a structural blueprint that most of us work with, and that's that as long as we're thinking pretty good thoughts and we're doing pretty good with our emotions and so forth, things will sort of they'll carry on. You're not going to be living in the street, and you're not going to be victim or this or that, because you're thinking pretty positive. You're thinking, well, life is gonna meet me, and we're gonna have a dance together, and things will be all right. Now, I can remember times in my life where that wasn't the case, and when I looked back at those situations, I saw that that my mind and my emotions were really out of whack. I was really down on myself. I was thinking negative things. And so forth. And you could probably relate to this to some degree. And so, unless there's a highly contrasting thing that is coming out of your own being to throw you way out of coherence, for the most part, you're just going to come along and you're just going to live sort of a normal human life. And the opposite's true if you think really positive things and you really, are inspired to make connections and follow through on ideas, that you might experience more. You might, win the lottery or start a company that makes millions of dollars. You might have, hundreds of friends. Who knows? But the point is that through the entire process, through the arc of life, it's our choices, our power of choice that determines our experiences. And, well, there went a flock of birds. Huh. Well, they're just hanging out, I guess. But it's our choices that our free will that kind of keep us moving in whatever direction we're going. And there's nothing set in stone. I've read and studied probably tens, if not hundreds of thousands of near-death experiences and things that were kind of contained in that, and some of the kind of baseline information that comes through. And I mean, there's information shared that people, choose, maybe the families that they're born into and some of the experiences they have. And I kind of, in my gut, I feel that's probably correct, that, you know, we don't come into this life blind. We kind of look at it and go, you know, these are the things I've experienced before, and they didn't really teach me anything. So I think I'll try it out again in this life and really knuckle down on that one lesson I need to learn so that I can become a good, loving person, you know, being. So it makes sense that we would want to come in and experience some things. But outside of that, our free will allows us to either go down that road or not. You know, it's going to come to us. We're going to feel this sort of synchronicity or good timing about something. And you go, you know, that person is just a good person. I'm going to marry that person. Or that job just feels right. I'm going to take it. And then whatever it is, it just leads you down some path that you end up having this major life experience through. And it could be just awful, or it could be really good. But it's all for the purpose of learning some lessons that you probably thought about before you came into this body. And so we can see that having free will is a good thing. You know, it allows us to sort of steer the vehicle, you know, but at the same time, you know, if we let go, in other words, we don't try to like make everything perfect, and we don't try to like make everybody like us, and we don't try to have the most specialist things. It's okay to have all that stuff. It's perfectly fine. And it's okay to have other people like you. But that's not what I'm saying. My point is that there comes a point where we can just let go. We can put things on cruise control. And it doesn't matter, you know, your situation. Even if you don't have much, you can put things on cruise control. And it's that feeling of relaxing. Now, when I put my car on cruise control, as soon as I press that little lever on my Toyota, I feel the computer of the car take over. And as soon as that happens, I just relax. I mean, that's it. I have no more feeling in my body of trying to control something. There's just my hand on the wheel and my point of focus, like, okay, I need to turn this way. I need to turn that way. And if you really want to experience that feeling of lack of control, do it on a straightaway. Find a stretch of road that's a couple miles long or more that's perfectly straight, and put your car on cruise control, and really let that feeling come into your body and your mind and your emotions. And then translate that to your own internal life. So if you can feel that feeling of relaxation, that feeling of, you know, I'm going to get where I need to go, you know, something else is propelling me there, it's drawing me there, it's taking me there. That's like the feeling of coherence, where you're not trying to manipulate and control everything in your life, and, you know, manifest the perfect person or the ideal this, the ideal house or whatever. And that's all fine. It's perfectly fine. But there comes a point where you have to let go. You have to just let it go. Because I'll tell you one thing, if you're trying to find the perfect person, I'll wager you a big bet here. How about 50 cents? Okay? But I know that I'll never have to pay that 50 cents out to anybody. You right now couldn't get up and leave wherever you're at and go walk through the streets and talk to every single person you come in contact with and run into that perfect person that you're looking for. And now it may be that you might, because anything's possible in the universe, right? But my point is that when we look for something, it usually runs away from us. When we're trying to, force our way into a position at work that, you know, we're really not either equipped to do, or that the job doesn't even want you to do, you know, it's just going to create some conflict or something that creates some other situation. If you're trying to, you know, date somebody who doesn't want to date you, it's just gonna make it worse. You probably lose even the opportunity to be their friend because you're trying to date them, you know, and when they don't want to. So resistance is like it's like a shield. It's us trying to control things. Is like we're trying to push our way through something, you know, and that just it works, you know, if you're a farmer and you're putting a shovel in the ground because you need to dig a hole. You could put that shovel in the ground and it'll push the dirt out of the way. It works if you're maybe you're a marketing company and your motto is not to use your intuition and your mind to manifest things, but to just run the numbers. So you just advertise and do whatever you can to market whatever you're marketing, and you're going to get that 1 to 3% or whatever the heck it is. Or, you know, the opposite of that is when we let go and we trust. So I'm going to use an example here that I heard somebody use some years ago. I think it was Andy Shaw, and he has some stuff on YouTube. He has a book called The Bug-Free Mind. I didn't really even read the book. I listened to his videos and got his point, but I felt good about the information he had, and I sent for the book, which weighed about 5 pounds. But I'm sure it's got great information in it. But the main point is that one thing he used was we don't think about ordinary things. Like, let's say that you have well, I'll use something on me, right? Here's my youngster does leather working and made me a little wallet, right? So I can just reach in my pocket and I can get my wallet out, and I don't even think twice about that, right? We do this stuff all the time. Now, if you're at home, let's say that you that you have a cup in front of you, like a cup of coffee or a glass. You can reach out, you can pick that cup up, and you can just lift it off the table, and you can set it down, and you can hear the sound of it hitting the hard surface of the table. You can do the same thing with the glass, right? Sound of the glass hitting the hard table, bunk, bunk, when they land. So there's weight to it, there's gravity. Now, another thing is a water faucet. You can reach up and you can turn on the faucet on your shower, as an example, your bathtub or whatever, and the water will come out. Or you go to your sink and turn it on, and the water will run out. You can feel yourself pulling the lever. You can hear the water running out. The other thing we do every day is we start our cars. You can imagine holding your key and starting your car. Okay, now maybe close your eyes for a second and imagine in your mind that you pick up, a cup or a glass, whatever choice is yours. You pick it up, you can feel your hand against it, and then you set it down, bonk. And then you reach up and you grab the sink faucet and you turn it on. Psh, the water comes out, right? And then you go to your car keys that are already in your car ignition and you turn it on. Vroom, right? These are everyday things we do. It's just habit. It's just something that we don't even think about, right? Now, picture you having, now this one you'll have to use your imagination for unless you have an apple. Then as you're sitting there imagining, now imagine your hand out, left or right, doesn't matter, and somebody puts an apple in your hand, and you can feel the weight of the apple in your hand. So now start the sequence over. Okay, so you pick up the cup, you set it down, you turn on the faucet, the water comes out, you put your hands on the keys, you turn your car on. Next situation, you put your hand out, open, palm up, and somebody sets an apple in your hand. You can feel the weight of it. Now, you didn't have any variation. If you go through that 2 or 3 times, it doesn't take very many times. You can feel the experience of the cup, the faucet, the starting of the car, and that apple landing in your hand all equally as being real. Because your imagination has done those things, right? Now, pick something that you've never done. Let's say that you've never opened the big doors, these huge 15, 16 foot tall doors of a gigantic castle made out of stone. in a meditation experience. I was, I had this visionary experience, and just like my out of body experiences, I was at the top of this mountain. I crossed this stone bridge, and there was these massive wooden doors on the face of the mountain. And I walked up to them, and I put my hands on them, and I pushed them open. And when I opened it, I had this incredible experience in there. So now you take the cup, you take the faucet, take the starting of the car, the apple in your hand. Now imagine pushing these big doors open, right? So that's your ability to imagine what isn't there. You just imagined yourself walking into a big stone castle, pushing these massive doors with these huge hinges on them open. You just imagined an apple in your hand. All right? So that's how our mind works. Our mind, we are the imagination. Everything is consciousness. Everything is the imagination. And so that's as simple as it is to create something. But none of it will happen unless we let go, unless we put our lives on cruise control. Well, I shouldn't say that, because you can still be caught up in control and trying to push yourself, and things will manifest, because there will be microseconds or moments where you actually are letting go, and you'll think of something, and then it'll manifest, and then later you'll go, why the hell did that manifest? And this thing that I've been trying to create and meditate on 3 times a day, and saying all these mantras and intentions and all this other stuff, none of it's ever happened. But why did these simple things happen that I barely even thought about? Well, that's why. Because you didn't think about them. You just had this inspiring thought, and you just let it go. Just like you just pushed open those big doors, entering that, castle, or you held that apple in your hand. As simple as those thoughts were, that's as simple as the imagination. All it requires is our free will saying, oh, this is a nice thought, and then you let it go. And you don't do anything to think against it. You never know, it might show up. So, I've given some experiences on my other videos, but this video is getting long, so I'll cut it short. But anyway, it's just something to think about today. Maybe try to put yourself on cruise control. That method of getting in your car and finding a straightaway is a good exercise, I think. I just happened to notice it when I did it. And maybe it'll help you to sort of shift your own mindset to where you just can let go. Think of that experience like maybe when you're concerned about something. Maybe if you're only lonely and you want to be with somebody, maybe you're stressed about money and you need to pay a bill, and just accept that, oh, that money will just arrive just like that apple in my hand, and then let it go. Go back into cruise control and just let it go. So hopefully this helps. I think it's time for me to dry out because I'm getting a little cold. Thanks for stopping by.